You can be just as disengaged and just go to class and go home as much as you want. But for some reason, we don't. And it's because of inspiration. It is because of relationships, bonds. But as you start to build this network of this community, it gets a little bit brighter.
From the Office of Institutional Advancement and Alumni Relations, it's Xavier Gold Live, the podcast, bringing you stories of leadership, impact, and the Xavier spirit. What's new, XU? I'm Tashia Hogue.
And I'm Jalen Jones. We're both student journalists from Xavier's Mass Communications Department and are excited to bring you a podcast where we connect with our Xavier community through conversation.
In each episode, we bring you intimate interviews with standout alumni who will give us a glimpse into their unique Xavier experience.
Happy Mardi Gras, Xavier writes. March is here, which means it's a new month and a new season of growth, innovation, and celebration. Speaking of celebration, as we take part in this illustrious holiday and spend time with friends and family, we continue to celebrate 100 years of Black excellence, leadership, and service here at Xavier University. And what better time to honor this legacy than during the vibrant season of Mardi Gras, a time of unity, joy, and culture, a reflection of the very spirit that makes Xavier special. During this month, we embrace not only a new season, but the promise of fresh opportunities, continued success, and the resilience that has carried us through a century of excellence. And speaking of excellence, we would like to wish a happy birthday to Dr. Norman C. Francis, President Emeritus, who has been a pillar of leadership and a true embodiment of Xavier's mission. We celebrate his birthday on March 20th and recognize his everlasting impact on our university and beyond. Thank you for 47 years of presidency and more in helping build a more just and humane society. Here's to a month filled with progress, purpose, and plenty of feasting. Now, let's get into this episode with Tashia and Dr. Justin Charles. Happy Mardi Gras and happy Centennial, Xavier writes.
Today we are connecting with New Orleans native and College of Pharmacy alumnus Dr. Justin Charles. He reigns from the alumni class of 2014. Dr. Charles is a pillar in the Orange Mound community located in Memphis, where he takes on the leadership role of head pharmacist at a nonprofit behavioral health provider with a decade of experience under his belt. So let's welcome Dr. Charles to the Xavier Gold Live podcast. We're so excited to connect with you through conversation today, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning. Pleasure to be here.
So let's just dig right in. As the pharmacist in charge at a nonprofit, give us your mission statement, and we would love a preview of what a typical day might look like for you.
So promoting wellness in our community, that is what my organization is all about. I've only been there about 3 years. So my role is literally to manage distribution of the medication to our crisis facility downtown. So let's say if somebody is having a behavioral health crisis or something that's emergent, then they are admitted to that facility, and I provide the medications there from my clinic to theirs. I also provide outpatient services at my clinic. So in that job as well, with us being an outpatient clinic, I have providers in-house that I can provide consult with and make interventions as needed. The thing that I love about my role is being in the Orange Mound community. The impact that I'm able to have in my patients' lives is unparalleled. I have a high percentage of paranoid schizophrenics and schizoaffective disorder, bipolar disorder, and these patients are not getting the same care level at other institutions that they get from us. And the reason being is 95% of our patients look like us. When I say that, what I mean is, especially from my point of view, these individuals live in this community that I serve, and Orange Mound reminds me so much of where I grew up in the Ninth Ward in New Orleans, where everybody's speaking, everybody's close-knit. You know, when I was growing up, let's say I'm walking home from school from the bus stop. If I'm walking home and Miss Porter's sitting on the porch and I don't speak, I'm going to hear about it. My grandma going to call, and she's going to tell my mama, and my mama going to say, what's wrong with you? And now I got to go back and go speak to Miss Porter. So it's the same principle. It's a close-knit community, and everybody in that community knows what's going on with certain people, and they help. They're there for them. And our patients they need that. They need a network because it's difficult, even when you're stable, but the slightest thing can trigger you with change. When we're talking about behavioral health and these types of conditions, the slightest change can destabilize you, and now you're getting readmitted to the hospital in a psychosis. Your whole reality is changed off the simplest of differences. A new pharmacist comes in, and now, what happened to Justin? Where's so-and-so? The little triggers are just there. So continuity of care and caring about how their culture, what's important to them, what they're afraid of, what they want out of their care, it's different for different cultures. I'll say that. It's not even, I said that look like us, but more so it's resonating. It's resonating.
Yes, and I love how you touched on how it's a close-knit community that, you just get that sense of home. It reminds you of where you come from. With dealing with patients who may have various disorders or seek help, what do you need to ensure that you have a good day? Because you're the one that's consistently showing up for these patients, making sure that you're that impact, and you want to make sure that they progress through the bond that you build as health provider to a patient. So what do you need to ensure that you start your day off on the right foot?
Coffee. But in all seriousness, it's balance. You have to understand that while this is your job, you have to find a fine line between just remaining a objective professional and investment and empathy. Personalizing your approach, and especially once you have a rapport with a patient, is critical to achieving the best outcomes. I'll give an example. I have a patient, Miss Smith. Miss Smith has been taking a benzodiazepine, Klonopin, for decades. And it is something that your body gets dependent on from a chemical standpoint. But there is an issue with that medication that it can cause rebound paranoia and anxiety. The funny thing is, usually that's what it's written for. So we've realized this as healthcare, and we've tried to wean patients off. However, she is already in that paranoia. Just like I mentioned earlier, change is an issue. So she is very, very paranoid about changes to her medication, the intention, who's out to get her. So she got transferred to me. I guess I got labeled as the good guy, I guess if you want to say. So she got transferred to me from another pharmacist or another clinic that she felt was out to get her. And so I took her on, and we built a relationship. And I had to let her know, I'm your pharmacist. You call me if you need it. My name is Justin. I don't go by Dr. Charles. I'm Justin. We continue. We go forward. A different company started providing us with our drug. So the pill changed. Just the color. What happened was she literally thought I was out to get her. I was trying to take away her medication, change her therapy, and she would not come to the pharmacy even to order her medication. She would not call to the pharmacy to order her medication. We had to get her therapist involved, and they had to pretty much coordinate picking up her medication because she didn't even want to look at me. She was in tears when this initially started off. And this went on for maybe 6 months. And it really affected me personally because I had built up that personal rapport. It drained me. I went home, I was talking to my wife about it. It really drained me, and it hurt me because in her reality, I was the enemy. I was a villain in her reality. And moving forward recently, in the past few weeks, I was able to have something just stir me to say, you know what, today is the day. I saw her name come up, and I personally took her medication, and I said no. And I took it to her. I knew she wanted her counselor to come get it and bring it there, but when I saw her name, I got it ready. I made eye contact with her, and I did everything I needed to do on the front end, And I went to the counselor's office where I know she was to give her medication and to start a conversation. We started that conversation. I was in that office. Everything in the pharmacy had to stop because this was important to me. And we started that conversation, and the benefits of that were amazing. And just a simple act like that can keep you going because it's a very stressful job. You know, healthcare, especially behavioral health, can get really, really draining. But that'll refill you. So the emotional balance is key.
Given your expertise and the active role that you play as head pharmacist, what strategies do you employ to effectively manage your responsibilities? And how do you stay up to date with the latest advancements in medicine?
So at my facility, I have the benefit of we have a lot of representatives come from the drug companies. And with me being specialized, it's not very difficult. I used to work for a large chain. And then it was very difficult because I'm managing all disease states. I'm seeing everything. And here it's really I get to be way more detail oriented in my craft. So it's not very difficult to keep up. But as far as execution of the different type of operational things that I need to manage, it's a very small clinic. Early in my career, like I said, I was working at a large chain. I was very aggressive and ambitious in my career goals. So I had way more on my plate than what I have now. Even at one point, COVID, to be quite honest, it made me actually employ a lot of different strategies. So with that large chain, I was a pharmacy manager, but I acquired a promotion to be a store manager. So now I'm in charge of not only the pharmacy, but I'm in charge of the front end of the store as well. I'm in charge of the entire building, the grounds, everything. And the pharmacy manager now reports to me. So that was interesting because it gave me a very, very, very unique perspective. So as clinicians, we're trained to think a certain way, right? But the business side, the management side, and the soft skills can sometimes be less developed. That bridged the gap for me, and that gave me passion for people leadership, which I already had, but it gave me the skills and experience, should I say, not the passion. Fast forward, COVID hits. I actually got the opportunity to be a site coordinator, and I actually was able to launch the first testing facility in the Memphis area. And the program went well. And once that got integrated into when you can go to a pharmacy and get your COVID test done, I helped launch that in the entire metro Memphis area. And it was very fulfilling because it gave me a sense of impact. It gets very transactional, when you get into these large organizations, numbers, productivity. You don't have time to get into the details of a therapy unless a concern is arised. But that was different. The need was for the general masses, and I was able to fulfill that need, and that gave me a lot of validation for what I'm doing.
Yes, and as we know that people are more comfortable seeking health care from those who look like them. So how far do you think we've come when it comes to diversity in medicine?
It can be put two ways. So how far we have come quite far. Have we achieved a goal of some sort? Kind of. But what is the target? Is the target representation to the same degree of our population? Because one might say that whatever our population is of the nation, that's one number. The real number is what is our percentage of the patients? And that is an entirely different number. So when you look at that target, because I would say the provider population needs to match the patient population, not the country's population. So it's a different target than what most people would think. And that's my own personal view, but there's a long way to go. A long way to go. The barriers are different as far as getting into that room. The barriers are different as far as staying in that room. And the barriers are different as far as applying what you got out of that room.
How do you think technology has enhanced our use of medicine and how we understand it?
This is really, it's big in healthcare, especially with you have Dr. Google. Dr. Google. So your patients come to you and they say, I have this and I need this. Where can I get it? Completely bypassing a $250,000 education minimum. Now, with your Google search, you know exactly what you have and how you need to treat it. And the funny part is, in some cases, they may be right. But there is a lot that, and I said, I had a student that I was having a talk with, and it's about, really in healthcare, it's about what you don't know. And what we're trained to do is find out information. Because now that we have more information, we can make a very specialized and personalized treatment option for you. If you have no education, experience, or training, Google will not ask you what you don't know. Google will only tell you what's there. And you don't know what other medication you're on that might interact with this. They don't know what your family history is. They don't know anything but this paragraph. So I can't state enough. While the information is valuable, do not confuse Google with the education that people have worked a whole lot to achieve, and the experience on top of that they've maintained. So I say all that to say, as far as the general public goes, information is key when making informed decisions about your health, what you should do to maintain, what you should do to improve. But some critical decisions are being left to digital doctors. And when I say digital doctors, I don't mean the doctors that are, virtually available. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your TikTok that now you're an expert on because you watch the TikTok. So now I know what I need to do to treat my mom's diabetes. It's not the same.
Xavier really emphasizes community service and health disparities while preparing their students to serve in underserved communities. They mold us to address critical health issues. So what inspired you to initially get into this specific realm of healthcare?
Pharmacy is a big piece in my family. My father's a pharmacist. My uncle's a pharmacist. My aunt is a pharmacist. My cousin's a pharmacist. I met my wife in pharmacy school. My wife's twin sister's a pharmacist. So, yeah, pharmacy is a big part of my family from birth. Actually, small tidbit, and I don't know how many people know this, but my mom was a pharmacy tech for my dad. It's not necessarily it wasn't optional for me. Now, behavioral health is a whole different story. Behavioral health was happenstance. So I was gung-ho, super ambitious. I'm trying to get the next promotion, then the next promotion, then the next promotion. Find out we were pregnant. Okay, it's time to slow down, because this is in that COVID where I was literally running a pharmacy, but I was still a site coordinator. So when people had issues with this new procedure that they were doing with COVID testing, I had to be available to them. So I was pretty much working 2 full-time jobs. Get up in the morning and start answering emails. If I had a shift that day, I'm 4 a.m. answering emails, and I got to wait till I get off my shift and answer emails. I might have a call, or I'm trying to verify prescriptions and direct traffic in the pharmacy at the same time. So it was very, very, very labor-intensive and time and energy. That wasn't what I wanted as far as when it was time to move forward with my life goals. So I need a new job. My wife's mentor actually wound up with this position opening. I have her old position. She got a promotion, and just literally off happenstance of a conversation, that Alumni Network Xavier University. It wasn't even really an interview process. It was, yeah, you're here now. And 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. That's unheard of in healthcare. It is unheard of. I have the miracle schedule. And it's all just God's work. I wasn't looking for anything, but it fell that way. I had higher ups calling me saying, "Hey, what could we do? What happened? Did somebody make you another offer? Is it another company?" And I'm like, "Nah, you can't. There's nothing you can do to compete with that." So they're like, "Oh man."
Hey, Xavier Wrights, don't forget we're 1 month away from Give Love Xavier Day. That's right, on April 8th, tune in to our one-day online fundraising event where you have the chance to support this initiative that helps to continue educating deserving students and show the university some love. When you give love and donate, don't forget to spread the word by using hashtags like hashtag GLX2025 on all social media platforms. Now, let's get back into the episode.
Well, now it's time to take a trip down memory lane to revisit your time at Xavier. So travel back with me, but not too far. Just down the street and around the corner to 2007. The year where social media has not yet surged, but Barack Obama has just announced his candidacy to be the president. Give our audience just a snapshot of those first few weeks at Xavier. And what was the initial interactions?
When I start, social media, it's there, but it's not. It's not what it is now. By the time I leave, social media is everything. The transformation of that time was amazing. And I'm not a social media type of person. Like, I just, it's there, but I'm an introvert, So it impacted everything. It took the entire social dynamics of the university by storm. And of course, I'm saying the university, but the world by storm, yeah. Even though I actually wound up moving onto campus, even though I lived in New Orleans, I got a really rich immersion into Xavier because I got to spend so much time in the dorms, St. Michael's dormitories, with a lot of out-of-state students. So I was able to have two sets of friends, right? I had two identities. I was with my local friends in the UC, hanging out in between classes, and then I would go back to my dorm, take a nap, catch the last call in the caf for dinner, and then I'm hanging out with my pre-med, pre-pharm friends in the dorm, and we're in the library till close. So that was how my undergrad went until I got to pharm school. Peer dean, color groups, the same tried and true Xavier traditions were in place.
How would you say these moments shaped your early expectations and feelings about, your journey ahead?
So it kept me balanced, to revisit. It kept me balanced because that was two different factors of my personality. That was two different factors of me, and that helped mature me as far as I don't have to choose. I can be who I am and still be successful in both things, still keep my old friends and make new ones. I can achieve my goals career-wise, academically, and still personally and socially.
Yes, and I'm glad you spoke on not having to choose and that versatility within your friend group because we don't often see too many pharmacy students involved in campus social life because of the implied tale that you guys only have time to study. And while that might be true to an extent, it's important to still have that healthy work-life balance. So how did you balance your studies with your heavy involvement in so many organizations on campus?
I was headstrong. So Xavier has, in my opinion, a very, very elite group of individuals. And first of all, the whole university is elite, number one. But in Xavier, you have a highly active and engaged group of people, not just pharmacy, but around the university. These may not be your 4.0 A students. These are the students that are in 3 different organizations, probably on the executive board for 2 of them, at every service Saturday. They're still at the parties. They are in the library. They are in a Greek organization, and they still maintain a B average. Those are the freaks. And I wound up being one of those freaks. I crossed in 2010, and it was earth-shattering because all I did, I socialized and I studied. And it wasn't hard for me. I went to a very difficult high school, so that wasn't hard. Like, I didn't study until my second year of Xavier. And I got to the point to where I learned what I was capable of because I wanted to see this change in this organization, so I took on that mission to enact that change. I wanted this degree, so I'm going to internalize this information as best that I can to not only just get the degree, but to apply the degree to the best of my ability. Plus, I was working. And that's another thing about, I will say, Xavier or College of Pharmacy for sure, is I realized that's not the norm in healthcare education. Most places, they do not work like Xavier students worked. And I'm not talking about just an internship. I'm talking about they're working for money. So I worked about 20 hours a week. And that's a lot when you're talking about, I was the president for the Greek organization. I was in pharmacy school, involved with Collegiate 100. I was involved with, I can't even remember. I think I was a class treasurer at one point. Invested. And I remember having my calendar out on my laptop and one of my friends just being like, why are you so busy? And I didn't even think about it that way, but I literally that was just my life at that point, and I lived it. And now it makes things easy because I know what I'm capable of.
Speaking of capabilities, you mentioned how you didn't start studying until your second year of Xavier. And sometimes we stick to what we know, but sometimes it no longer works for us. Like what I did in high school doesn't work for me in college.
Amen.
So lean into those lessons you learned that at first might have been frustrating, but in the end, you appreciate it.
Let's set the stage. So I, in high school, I went to Ben Franklin. So we are the quote unquote smart kids. Or, everybody, oh, you went to Ben Franklin. Oh. And it's one of those top 50 in the nation schools. It's just ridiculous. Like I know people that got perfect ACT scores. Like that, it's just weird. But that was the normal for us. And that school was so hard that Xavier, and I had a lot of classmates from my high school that went to Xavier, we were kind of looking at each other like, this is easy. Now, that's everything not including, if you were a science major taking chem, bio, no. We're not, nobody is talking about that's easy. No, sir. But most of your courses were so rigorous in high school that the rigor of it, materials new, but the rigor was nothing. It was so lax. Yeah. But fast forward, you get in pharmacy school. Okay, yeah, it's a different level, and I'm trying to study, I'm trying to do this. And then I get more active, and I failed. I fell completely flat on my face. I had never failed anything. I had never got a D before in my life. Ever. And I failed. And it was so humbling, but it lit a fire. Now, while I might not have ever had a D in my life, I never had a 4.0 because I was lazy. I did not have to study. I don't know how to take notes. Still to this day, when I'm attending a lecture, I just pay attention, and for some reason, a lot of things stick. It's just, I guess you call it talent, gift, whatever. It's just how God made me. But that became my weakness. And I had to learn how to get that weakness taken care of. I had to learn, okay, you're an auditory learner. So how about we record the lectures? This is before. Now everything's recorded, and man, it's crazy. Yeah, I had to manually do this stuff. So I would bring my laptop to class. I would record the lectures. And while I'm recording the lectures, I'm paying attention and I'm engaged. I'm asking questions, and I'm just making sure I'm there present mentally. Because like I said, notes, I can't do notes and pay attention. So record, go back to the library before I go to work, and transcribe with the lecture onto the PowerPoint notes. And now I'm taking much better notes, not just generic transcribing what the teacher said, because that's not valuable. That's just copycatting. I was taking notes relative to the thoughts going on in my head and the conversations we were having about the material. So I was able to internalize it. And for longevity purposes, it just stuck. Like, I can still have conversations about things we learned in pharmacy school. And my wife's like, did we attend the same school? Like, when did we learn this? I'm like, yeah. I was like, yeah, we learned it. I don't know. You take better notes than me. What are you talking about? So it is an adapting situation. You have to adapt. And my failure became my success.
And that's what Xavier has done for me personally, just giving me those humbling experiences where it's like, okay, I could be dramatic about it at first, but further down the line, I understand that it's a lesson for me to learn, or a time to pivot. So how did your education you received from Xavier shape your approach to pharmacy through leadership?
It wasn't my academic education that shaped me the most. It was the Xavier community and being engaged and spending so much time around Dean Bird and all these other individuals that poured into me. It was learning how important service leadership is, what that looks like, what being a servant leader is all about. It's about, just our centennial slogan, press forward, fear nothing. Deo adjuvante non temendum. Like, everything about the mission of Catherine Drexel is drive, go, do. It became how I internalized it. And I never really realized how much I did until recently. Like, a more just, humane society. Like, I advocate for my team more so than I actually manage them. I'm there. I feel like I'm there for their support. I am their support, not the other way around. My technicians, they know I'm a ride or die for them. Nobody can tell my team anything, because that's what I'm here for. Now, we're going to have a side conversation between me and my team afterward, but I have your back in face value. I'm not going to reprimand you in front of a patient or anybody else. I'm going to have your back face value, and then we'll discuss this later on in-house. Those are the types of skills I learned. I learned that when you think you're high and mighty and you're Mr. New Alpha on campus and you got a white coat on because you're in pharmacy school, the best people that you need to make sure you talk to every day is your sanitation team, is the people that keep the facilities ran, is the cafeteria lady. If you think you're better than them, you're wrong, because you wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. It's 97 degrees outside. This New Orleans. Let that air cut off. What happened? Nothing. You ain't going to class. And if you are, you ain't learning. There takes a village. Everybody in that village has a role. Everything that Xavier taught me transpired in my career, in my life experiences. When I was at this big chain, I had one of the upfront employees told me, no, she just always called me Dr. Charles. I'm like, Justin is fine. She's like, no. And I will never forget what she said. Too many people gave up too much for you to be Dr. Charles. So you be Dr. Charles. And ever since then, I make sure that while I still accept Justin once we have rapport, on all my cards, all my designations, I am very particular about those two letters. Humility is great, but you have to remember whose shoulders you stand on, who gave up big things for you to be where you are. From your parents, your village, everybody poured into some way for you to be where you're at. People long gone. So don't diminish your achievements. That's a big lesson for me.
Yes, and speaking of that Xavier community, Xavier's core curriculum ensures that we're confident in any room that we walk in. How do you think Xavier's values and mission will continue to guide future generations?
The how is through leadership. There is nothing at Xavier that tells you you have to do this. You have to do community service. You have to be engaged. You have to, no, there's not that doesn't happen. You can be just as disengaged and just go to class and go home as much as you want. But for some reason we don't. And it's because of inspiration. It is because of relationships, bonds. Somebody asked, how you doing? What's going on? You need some help? And you learn their name. And now they're pouring in. That made your day a little bit better. Going off to school can be a very, very isolating experience. But as you start to build this network of this community, it gets a little bit brighter. So Xavier very much so embodies that funnel to where you taking in individuals, but you pouring out family members. And as long as that funnel is maintained, Xavier students are going to be sent out like arrows, hitting the targets, emissaries. And as long as they maintain that same vigor and don't get complacent, don't get comfortable, we will serve the community. We'll be inspiration just like we were, inspired. But the second hope is preservation. Preservation of our core culture, of that mentality that there's nothing that can stop me. If there's a wall, there's a ladder. If there's a door, there's a knob. If there's a lock, there's a key. It's a mentality that I'm good enough. Actually, I'm better than what you need. So if I'm applying for a job, I'm interviewing them. They're not interviewing me. And at the same time, in that same breath of confidence, being humble and making sure that you're catering to the network that is catered to you. It's odd and it's paradoxical, but it works. And as long as that is maintained, I'm great.
Well, now it's that time where we enter our segment called the Live 5, where I will ask you 5 timed questions we think our growing gold community would love to know. So let me know when you're ready.
Ready, let's go.
What's the strangest home remedy you ever heard of?
Ooh, shoot, time. Man, that's so,
Describe your XULA story in 4 words.
Only 4 words. Ooh, wait.
Prince or Michael Jackson?
Mike.
Where was your go-to food spot or lounge in Louisiana?
Home.
You're in college. Were you an early bird or a night owl?
Both.
Well, that wraps up our Live 5 round. Dr. Charles, it was again a pleasure connecting with you, an outstanding alumnus, through conversation. Tell our growing gold community how they can connect with you online.
Like I said, I'm an introvert, man. But you can reach out through the Memphis Alumni chapter. I'm the president of the Memphis Alumni chapter. Our webpage is XULA901.com. We also are on Instagram, Facebook. Just reach out to us if you're in the Memphis area. We love to connect, build those relationships. We don't want anything from you but your smile.
Thank you for tuning in to the Xavier Gold Live podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's show. Now, XU, you know what to do. Join our growing Gold community on the first Tuesday of every month.
This podcast is available to listen to wherever you listen to your podcast. Do us a favor by subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show today. Make sure to also follow us on social media and subscribe to our monthly newsletter.
This is Xavier Gold Live, the podcast where Xavier's legacy comes to life.